Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Saturday Expert Series. I'm super excited today because we are just a day away from Valentine's Day. And what could be a better gift for Valentine's Day than take care of your own hearts? We're always so busy taking care of our loved ones, everybody else. But what if you focus on your own heart and really try to support yourself, with the proper lifestyle, dietary practices, and what can be a better gift than it comes from a cardiologist, a renowned cardiologist that we have with us today. So this is very exciting. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Vineeta. How are you
Hi,
today?
everyone. Very nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Manjari.
You're most welcome. So Dr. Vineeta, MD, FACC, FASE in cardiac imaging and cardiovascular medicine. So she's a cardiologist practicing in the GTA region. She's a very good friend and super excited to her. And I'm sure with COVID, you're seeing a lot more cases related to, heart health. So can you tell us a little bit about how COVID has impacted everyone in terms of
I think first and foremost, it's been such a stressful period for everyone, regardless of whether you were healthy or infected by COVID. Obviously, the patients that have suffered from COVID have really had a lot of varied symptoms. So we're actually seeing cardiac symptoms anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks after the initial infection up to about 3 months. And mostly it's, tachycardia, so elevated heart rates, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle aches. But the main cardiac one that I'm actually seeing in those people that have presented to me or been referred to me are just the elevations of heart rate. And I think aside from those things, though, if you've just been in this lockdown, the stress that goes with it has been enormous. The financial stress, the home stress. There's more issues with people now having to readjust their offices, their space, and working from home, bringing work into your home space. So there's a lot of different health wellness issues that have come to light.
So when it comes to diet, from a cardiologist perspective, like how does the diet impact a person's heart?
Is such a loaded question. So I probably probably hear this question quite a bit during the day. Over the last 5 to 10 years, we have seen various clinical trials out of large organizations showing that as you transition from purely animal-based diets towards, hybrid diets, towards plant-based diets, the plant-based diets are showing again and again the lowest risk of cardiovascular disease. If we look at within the plant-based diet, one of the things that I find that people tend to do on plant-based, and one of the big mistakes is because we go with what's available to us in North America, it tends to be heavily processed carbohydrates, and the carbohydrates are actually very inflammatory. So this is not the ideal plant-based diet that we want to be promoting. Plant-based truly means you're sticking to foods as they occur in nature, as close to nature as possible, with less processing, and of course trying to eliminate pesticides and other things. But then, if we look at specific foods, berries, for instance, have very large amounts of antioxidant properties, and I find that most people can tolerate them pretty well with less allergy and less inflammation. So I think that's a great go-to for cardiac health within the plant-based diet. And of course, we want to maintain a healthy balance of protein, carbs, and fats, not overdoing the carbohydrates, which I think many people tend to do with what's available.
Mhm. So berries are like definitely something everybody can have. And again, the good thing is they're not high in the glycemic index, right? But when you mention fats, there's a huge controversy around fat that just doesn't seem to die down.
It's true. It's true. So we started probably early 1900s where they kept saying fat is the enemy. Fat is going to kill you. You don't eliminate all your fat. And people started eating a lot more carbs through the entire 20th century. And lo and behold, what we've recently discovered again in the last 5 to 10 years is carbohydrates are actually not good for you if they're consumed in excess. Of course, anything in excess is not a good idea, but there are natural fats that your body needs. And because everyone thinks now, at least in the media, it's really being promoted healthy fats. So you healthy fats that are plant based, there's like avocados and coconut oil, but again, everything in balance. When we tend to go towards excess, you're going to get into trouble because you end up getting more saturated fat. It's out of balance with what your body needs. And I know, Manjari, this is a little bit where we are with allopathic medicine is a little controversial with, not controversial, but it's a little different than what Ayurveda speaks about. And it's because in allopathic medicine, we look at 1,000 people as one and we treat everybody sort of along the same lines. That's based on evidence-based medicine. Whereas in Ayurveda, what I love is that it's very customized. So with everything that's being said now, we have to keep into consideration what the underlying dosha is. And I know you could speak more to that. So when we talk about healthy fats, if someone really needs a lot more heavy foods in their diet, a very vata predominant person, then of course they would consume more of these things. But as a general note, if we try to generalize things, keeping a nice balance is good, and too much of anything is not a good thing.
Mhm. So for an average person, in your practice, how many like fats or, how much should their intake be? Because this is also one of the most common question that, I get asked now regarding the doshas. Definitely, vatas are going to need more. Kaphas are the ones that thrive on minimal, fats, minimal carbs.
Yeah.
But across, like for an average person, what could be some good sources of fat, and how does saturated versus unsaturated fat impact them?
So saturated fats and trans fats are very bad for when they accumulate in the system, because then especially if you have genetic predispositions to high cholesterol, you're going to tend to have these things sitting around in the system for too long and then start depositing within the arteries. If you couple that with inflammation that might be going on in the body, then we start to get atherosclerotic plaque in the arteries. So the idea is to keep the healthiest fats possible. When we look for healthy fats in the grocery store, when we really look at labels, you're going to see in packaged foods a lot of omega-6, whereas we actually have a high ratio of 6 to 3. We need the reverse. We actually need a high proportion of omega-3 types of fats. It's best achieved with things like fish if you're on a pescatarian diet. But again, omega-3s are there in our plant foods as well. So we have to sort of kind of really dig and search for the right fats in the plant food diet. Now, in terms of consumption, again, based on dosha, you're going to alter how much fat you consume. But I would definitely avoid deep saturated fried foods, things that are packaged with a lot of different oils. So a lot of oils in one product is usually not a good thing. And again, trying to keep the food as close to nature as possible is the best thing you could really do.
Because we're talking about different diets, and this is a question I'm really curious about. Like keto diet has gained a lot of popularity, and keto diet is something that's high in both saturated as well as unsaturated fats. So have you seen in your clients like any patterns or any impacts on?
I have actually. So you'll take two individuals. They look similar, maybe same body weight, same health conditions, and you put them both on a keto diet. One person develops very high cholesterol. The other person has no effect on their cholesterol and actually is doing quite well and has lost weight. So again, it points to the fact that these things really have to be customized. And if you do decide to take an extreme diet, such as the keto diet, which completely eliminates carbs in efforts to lose weight or reduce inflammation, then you have to make sure that you're following with a practitioner who can then check your blood levels, make sure that your cholesterol is not rising. There has been extremely high levels of cholesterol in some individuals on a keto diet. So unless you know your underlying genetic predisposition to this and your underlying imbalances, then it's a dangerous thing to play with if you're not being supervised.
Mhm. So coming back to the heart health and foods, are there three best things that people should be consuming more regularly?
Well, I would say again, it's my three favorite foods. Again, I always go back to berries because they're loaded with amazing properties, antioxidants, and they're very well tolerated. More plant-based, so some healthy oils in the food are a good idea. I don't like to promote coconut oil too much because I find people overindulge. So if you look at how much is in 2 tablespoons, it's probably a lot of coconut that went into producing that oil.
Yeah.
So it's loaded with saturated fat. But healthy foods like half an avocado a few times a week, those things are where you're going to find some good fats. Olive oils that are cold, not multiple oils mixed together. So very simple foods that are rich.
And what are the three worst foods that you see commonly?
Okay. Well, my biggest pet peeve is the keto diet, actually, because it's very high in consumption of animal-based or heavy meat products, such as red meat, which is not only very inflammatory, but is probably the highest on the scale of cardiovascular risk in terms of consuming large amounts of red meat. So, and then you go down with all the animal-based proteins, I would say something similar, to lesser extents as you go down to chicken and then fish and then eggs sequentially and then dairy. So those for sure. The next one would be deep saturated foods. Like, so there's some of the favorites for some people are samosas or puris or, a bag of chips. So saturated foods are they tend to have, not only is the oil then sitting there with inertia for a long period of time, but developing toxins, and then you're consuming this. And then thirdly, again, carbohydrates. And some people really thrive on carbohydrates and they feel best with carbohydrates. And if that's what your body is demanding, then you have to listen to your system. But at the same time, when we speak about carbohydrates, we're talking about the processed carbs that have the corn oil, the cornstarch, the modified potato starch, all the packaged foods that are loaded with carbs are really not so good for us. But if it's a healthy plant-based and you're finding a good balance of fats, protein, and carb, then you're on the right track.
Okay. No, that's, a good thing. And what I just want to add is, in the olden days, Diwali was like a special time for fried foods, right? And or any kind of festivals were the really times when we had like a lot of, sugary foods, but it wasn't an everyday thing. Right now, you go to the grocery store, you
It's everywhere. It's daily. It's we're in this COVID lockdown. Let's make some cookies today, but that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, So people are overindulging. And most of my patients, and probably Manjari, you're seeing the same thing, most people have gained a good amount of weight during the COVID lockdown, and it's not healthy weight. It's sedentary weight, less exercise, the gyms are closed, they're eating more, and they're not eating necessarily the right foods. I think this is the perfect time, if you have a passion for cooking, to really experiment with really wholesome, good foods that you can make at home with the time to do so.
Yeah, and Indian foods are not always Ayurvedic foods. The other day somebody was, just texted me. She made butter chicken. She texted me and she's like, "Oh, now I'm eating like you." And I'm like, "I will never eat that." Like I don't
It's
eat
so
meat.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't eat like butter chickens all the day or samosas all the day. What you get in
Yes.
the grocery store is not home cooked Indian food. Like it's not.
Well, there's a huge misconception, because if you look at why all these spices are in our Indian cooking, they started out as medicinal herbs. So the turmerics, the jeera, the cumin seeds, the fennel, everything started out as medicinal herbs. And they ended up slowly become richer and richer and more heavily cooked. And over the last how many centuries now, the Indian food has evolved into this severely overcooked,
Yeah.
everything severely overcooked process where you're blasting the nutrients and the herbs lose their properties. Not only that, but some of the herbs that are being sold on the shelves don't even actually have the original properties of that herb. So I think, that is such a misconception that Indian food is purely Ayurvedic. If you want to make it Ayurvedic, you have to cook it with the right teaching of Ayurvedic methods and with the proper herbs that are sourced from the right places.
Yeah. No, surely, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves, like drinking lassi is not giving you probiotics, And these are like all the misconceptions people have, I'm having lassi every day, but you're having tons of sugar with it,
Yeah.
in the lassi. So
Yes.
that's what about lifestyle when it comes to heart health, any lifestyle practices? Because we mentioned like stress has a huge impact, right? So
Mhm.
anything you do in your own practice, to kind of,
So,
yeah.
so like we talk about in Ayurveda, dinacharya becomes so important. So waking up with a very healthy routine. So I always try to incorporate yoga and meditation early in the morning. And of course, the Brahma Muhurta time in the morning is probably your best time. So that's from the Ayurvedic standpoint, with Manjari would speak more about. The big organizations, cardiac organizations, speak about moderate exercise being about 150 minutes minimum per week of moderate exercise. So that could be brisk walking, light jogging, swimming. Of course, we don't have access to now, but any other activity that you think you can achieve 150 minutes a week is the guideline. So if you now add to that, with all the stress that is going on, you add an element of yoga, an element of meditation, the combination of the physical exercise and bringing it back down to relaxation states is going to be very, very good for you, not just in terms of overall health, but for your blood pressure, for sugar balance, for overall mental peace. And of course, there's a whole mind-body connection, which then leads to better wellness. And I always say, you know, don't take life so seriously. Everybody's become so serious, and we're all so concerned and so anxious about going out and having to wear these masks and not being able to do the things you can do and spend time with family. But remember, there's a huge stress-gut connection, and it does affect your microbiome in the gut, and that in turn affects your overall health. Good digestion is good health. So we got to stay balanced, incorporate the right lifestyle, and do what we can during this time, and take advantage of the extra time you might have to use that steal an hour for yourself to do some exercise, yoga, and meditation.
Yeah, those are like really great suggestions. I'm just going to say a quick hi to everyone who's hopped on. So if you are watching this live, please say a quick hi. You can post it in the comments. If you are watching this as a replay, you can put a hashtag replay. And if you have any questions, just post it in the comments. We have Dr. Vineeta, cardiologist from GTA. Today, she's talking to us about heart health. And we're discussing some really, really important topics because your heart is how you stay alive, right?
It keeps beating. It doesn't stop,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah, 24/7, something that really helps you. And I think you're right, being easy on yourself and not taking yourself too seriously, because with all the conspiracy theories and all
Yeah.
the controversies, and it's just hard to navigate social media without getting anxiety or without getting any like emotional distress, nowadays it's just hard.
Well, we're
Yeah.
all our own worst enemy. If we really look at it, all the stress is coming from ourselves. We're reacting to the whole situation. We're reacting to the COVID environment. We're reacting to the stress of going to the grocery store. We're reacting to what our families are going through. We're just constantly a big reaction. So we have to remove this reaction slowly. And if you want to chip away at it, exercise and yoga and meditation and just stealing time for yourself to set the balance is so important. If I skip yoga one of my mornings, there's a big difference in how the day plays out. So it's a daily maintenance that is needed in our lives.
And that's so true, like even exercising that you were mentioning has taken a completely different turn, where I've also had clients like vigorously exercising an hour every single day till they burn out, right?
Yeah, there's that. And I think we've all been there. We sort of overdo those things. And it does feel fantastic to exercise. We have to keep that element of relaxation on the same side, because if you're going to do so much exercise and then spend 12 hours at work and then come home and spend the rest of the time in the kitchen cooking, and your day is very busy, when are you resting? And the body also needs that rest and relaxation. So adding that element in the morning is really nice. It sort of sets the tone for how everything else plays out.
Yeah. And one more thing for the listeners, like when Dr. Vineeta talked about moderate exercise, 150 minutes a week, right? So it roughly translates to 20 minutes a day. So if you do something every single day, a 20-minute yoga session, there's so many things on YouTube, or there are so many virtual yoga sessions offered. You can take advantage of that. Exercising for 20 minutes, and moderate exercises when your forehead starts sweating, but you're not completely kind of sweating, or dying of exercise, because that's also what we see nowadays.
Yeah, we do see that extreme level. And you may feel good for a good 10 years doing this overindulgence in exercise. It feels fantastic. But by the time you get to 40 and then 50 and 60, your body realizes, hey, maybe I shouldn't have overdone it. So I think that advice is fantastic, Manjiri, about just breaking that little bit of sweat and not overdoing it. You preserve your nutrient balance, and you're able to get the circulation and get things moving. So, and that's not hard to achieve. 150 minutes sounds like a lot, but it's not hard to achieve that 20 minutes a day.
Yeah. And think about, like, for the listeners, think about it, that you deserve at least 20 minutes of your own time.
Yeah.
Women feel guilty about it, as women, we're always looking after everything else but our own self, right? So
The
take.
first thing I say when I tell someone to exercise, the first response I get is, well, I don't have time. I have to do this and I have to do that. And you're absolutely right. I think women are worse at this, at finding time for themselves. So you actually, these things that you're doing every day are not going to stop. You're going to keep doing them for the next 10, 20 years. So unless you steal that time, steal 1 hour for yourself every day, it's not going to happen. And 10 years later, you'll look back and say, oh, I still don't have time. So it has to happen now, and you have to steal the time, reshape your schedule.
I have a comment from Erin. So she says that she preaches mind body balance too. And if we can put some fun in cooking, fun in mental wellness, yeah, we're more apt to change our behavior. It must be a lifestyle change, 100%, you know.
Yes, if you pretend that you're playing all day long in everything you do, it just brings so much fun into everything you're doing. It's no longer work. And I think slowly you really will start to enjoy more and more things that maybe now you're stressed out about. It removes the stress. Play some music, dance around, make it fun and enjoyable. And then people around you will actually also start to really enjoy the process. We are way too serious as humans. We're too serious all the time. After age 6, it just all starts to go into serious mode, you know? So we need to get back to that.
Yeah, Mohan is saying thank you so much for the session. Hi, Chanchal. Thank you so much for watching this live. Again, you know, we have Dr. Vineeta, cardiologist, with us. If you have questions, put it in the comment section. And if you have, like, just say a quick hi, you know, so we know you're here. Now, my other question is, you know, because I see a lot of menopausal women in my practice, and I'm sure you do too, because you know it is said that menopause increases your risk for heart disease. So how does that happen, and is something that women during, like, after menopause can, you know, take some measures to prevent heart disease?
I think it's important in the perimenopausal period when you start to experience the changes to at least have your cholesterol checked once. One of the biomarkers of lifetime risk of cardiovascular disease is a high LDL. And we're starting to see that the lower that we can get the LDL in our lifetime, the less chance of depositing plaque in the arteries. If you look at neonates and babies, you know, when within 6 months that they're born, their LDL levels are actually very, very low. And they start to increase with diet and environment over time. And there's a big question mark has been, is this normal for adults, or is it something that we've adapted to because of the foods we're consuming, because of the stress in our environment? It's not really clear, but what we do know is the lower you get the LDL, the less the lifetime risk of cardiovascular disease. So perimenopause, I would always do at least one baseline cholesterol check, see where you are, check in with that. And also keep your exercise, improve your sleep quality during the perimenopausal period, because a lack of sleep also increases cardiovascular risk. And when the hormones start to change, those sleep patterns become very disrupted. So if you really want to improve your sleep quality, you have to do things like turn off all your electronics 2 to 3 hours before bed. Maybe buy the blue blockers if you're on the computer all day to just, you know, ease your exposure to that light. Make sure that you're eating 3 or 4 hours before you recline, because again, if there's food in the stomach and it's regurgitating up, you're not going to sleep well. You know, try not to drink a full glass of water right before sleeping, because in perimenopause you'll be up peeing all night again, right? With changes in the bladder. So the drop in estrogen, the inflammation that occurs around this time increases our risk, and all of these things become very, very important. If we balance the lifestyle and continue to balance the lifestyle, it's not a guarantee that all the perimenopausal symptoms will disappear, but certainly we can lessen them with less requirement of external medications and things that we may not want to get into. So the balance in food, healthier foods, listen to your body. If there's something that you're reacting to, eliminate it. Healthier sleep patterns, you know, all of those things really play a big role in perimenopause in reducing our risk.
And what about emotions? Like, how do emotions impact your heart? You know, nowadays people don't even express things. You know, we're losing touch with our family. You know, we're losing that physical touch as well, and that's creating a lot of emotional overwhelm.
Yeah, I think that also goes into the overall stress. And Manjari, maybe you could speak to the whole Sadhaka Pitta aspect of emotions and the heart from an Ayurveda side.
Yeah. So Sadhak, like, we have the main Pachak, we have 5 different subcategories of Pitta dosh, which is our energy of transformation, right? And the Sadhak Pitta is the one that stays in the heart, and that is also responsible for a lot of courage. Like, when we talk about the courage to face any adversities, because life is always going to be up and down, right? So this Sadhak Pitta, which resides in your heart, is going to help your heart function better. It can help you have the courage to deal with any adverse emotions as well. Because life is never steady for anyone, no matter how, blessed you are or how unblessed you feel, right?
So
Everybody
true.
goes through ups and downs of life, no matter what your financial status is, no matter if you have a big family, a small family, like there are so many parameters, but everybody goes through these ups and downs of life. And Sadhak Pitta is also fed, like the main Pitta sthan in the body is your gut, right? And Amashasta, what we say, Pachak Pitta is going to feed all the other pittas in the body. Today, I was giving a talk on your eye health, which is Alochak Pitta. So, other pittas are definitely fed through your digestion. So, the stronger the agni, the stronger the digestion, the better you are going to manage everything. And another simple example we can give here is, people with gut imbalances like experience a lot of anxiety, right? Or they get triggered over smaller things. So that is why it's extremely important to keep, your gut healthy for a healthy heart, because the main pitta is going to feed, the agni is going to feed all kinds of pittas as well. So, they're interconnected. So that's one of the importances.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah, it's very true. The anxiety goes up when the gut imbalance is there. And that's why some people will take probiotics and they suddenly feel more calm. Of course, there's a whole other topic about probiotics that we don't want to get into right now. But when we look at emotions, it's fascinating because from a cardiac perspective, when you see people presenting with not just coronary blockages, but congestive heart failure, for instance, it seems to be the two types. Either they're very kapha and it has developed because of diabetes and hypertension, or they're very vata and a lot of stress and anxiety. And we see, sometimes systolic dysfunction. It would be amazing to see whether there's a distinct correlation on the allopathic side with those things. But it's important to keep that emotional balance. Again, I come back to probably why the yoga and meditation works so well to reduce blood pressure and reduce stress. It just is an ease on the whole vascular system. Actually, meditation in some smaller studies has been shown to help regulate the autonomic nervous system very well. So reduces blood pressure, reduces your vagal tone, increases your vagal tone and reduces your resting heart rate, which is all excellent for maintenance of good cardiovascular health.
Mhm. No, and that's so true, that like yoga, meditation, like these should be parts of our life, like they should be a
Yeah.
lifestyle, they should be something you do on a daily basis. We have a comment here. So Mohan is saying, I joined a little late. So what is the maximum time a person can work out, like moderate one, like yoga or high intensity? So Mohan, we were just discussing that, and Dr. Vineeta said that 150 minutes a week is a good time, so 20 minutes a day. Again, working out more or less, like kafas have a lot more physical energy, so they can work out intensely. I'm a kapha body type, so I work out till the time I can. I really feel good when I have an intense workout, because it makes me feel light and I don't feel as sluggish. But for a Vata person, if they're burning out completely or they're doing an hour training, they're going to feel more tired. So one thing, again, a simple indicator could be that are you feeling good after the exercise? Not just in your mind because of the endorphins, but also your body, because you don't want to feel like happy but like dying with your body. So that's kind of, yeah.
I do find that the pittas and vata constitutions both overindulge in exercise. I'm guilty of the same, being sort of vata through my life. I have definitely over-exercised because I get that amazing endorphin feeling. But lo and behold, as I get older, 2 days later, the recovery time is absolutely terrible. So we have to really listen to our bodies and not overdo it.
Yeah. And what's your heart healthy routine? So,
So, so I try to get up at least at between 5 and 5:30. I have a whole process of yoga pranayamas and then a meditation that I do through my guru. So that takes about an hour usually in the morning. And that sort of really sets a nice balance. And already at that point, I'm feeling very calm to go into the very stressful day, especially during COVID. The work has been pretty intense. So, and then in the middle of the day at some point, because now many of the days we're virtual, I have actually purchased, I could show you here, but it's a treadmill under my desk. So
oh,
I pull out the treadmill and I do a very slow walk for half of my day. And that gets me up to, close to 10,000 steps if I know I'm not going to have the time to go outside. So like I was mentioning, if you can't steal the time, you have to be creative and find ways to put this into your day. So then I have the yoga, meditation, and the walking. And then usually that's good. I love to work out. And when the gyms were open, I was doing, close to 1 to 2 hours. And again, though, I didn't realize how fatigued I was until I suddenly stopped working out during the lockdown. And I realized my body was trying to catch up from all that overwork I had done. And it took me several months to sort of rebuild. So it was a really nice regenerating process. But we're not aware of it while we're doing it. So it was a great learning curve for me.
Yeah, I need that treadmill.
It's fantastic. Yes, absolutely. It's great. And the desk kind of goes up to that level. So the desk rises to standing height and then you just walk.
And then do you have a dietary routine that's heart healthy? I'm putting all the heart healthy books.
Yes. Well, yeah, honestly, I try to stick to plant-based as much as possible because that is the most evidence for the least cardiovascular risk. And within the plant-based diet, based on your dosha, then you can customize that. So if you're very vata, then you make sure that everything is steamed and cooked and with the proper herbs. If you're kapha, you could have more raw food. But the plant-based diet in general is good, and adding in some healthy fats, such as, your avocados, a little bit of cold olive oil in your salads, or, other things, and not overdoing the fried foods. Where I find if you go to a vegan restaurant, for instance, you'll find they use a lot of cashew, and they'll blend all these cashews and use it as a paste on everything. It's loaded with saturated fat. It's really loaded. You'll come out of there feeling full and content. And while tree nuts are actually good for you, heavy cashews and heavy plants, if you're consuming them in large amounts, again, are not the ideal thing. So try it, rather than making it into a paste, try to consume foods as they would occur in nature, and then you won't overdo it. You won't end up with these heavy oils and pastes that are hands and handsfuls of nuts that you might not otherwise consume.
Yeah. So that's a really good answer to the question. Mohan also has a question. Please advise on pitta, and because you've touched on cashews, most nuts are also going to increase your pitta too much, right? So while you need a good functioning pitta, if you're adding all these heavy saturated fats, to your diet on a regular basis, you're also subduing that, agni as well as pitta, right? In moderate amounts, take the example of a lamp, Mohan. Like if you see a lamp, if you add, nice amounts of oil, the light is really, strong. But if you add more oil on top of the lamp, the fire itself, you're going to extinguish the fire, right? So use it in a way that it's moderate and it's appropriate for you, and that's what will really help you. We've talked a bit about pitta as well. You can go back to the video and check it out. And he is asking about the importance of sleep on heart health.
It's actually hugely important. If we talk about when you get into yoga and you get into having more raw food, you'll find that your sleep quota actually reduces because your metabolic rate is slower. You're sort of calming your whole system down, and you don't go into those heavy states of needing, 10 hours of sleep. So when you start adding these lifestyle changes, first reassess how much sleep are you actually needing, and then try to get that much sleep on a nightly basis. The amount of hours in some studies have been reported to be, between 6 and 8 hours is a good amount of sleep. But again, that's a cookie cutter formula for thousands of people, and it needs to be customized. Everybody's sort of requirement is slightly different. If you're very vata, you'll need a lot more sleep. If you've exercised a lot, you'll need more rejuvenation and more sleep. But as soon as you start to do yoga and a little bit of meditation and a little lighter exercise, you'll find that sweet spot. And so sleep deprivation definitely will lead to a higher cardiovascular risk over time. There's cortisol surges, maybe not sleeping during the right hours, more inflammation in the body. You're not rejuvenating as well. So, and the quality of sleep. So just because you're sleeping 10 hours doesn't mean you're actually going into the appropriate sleep stages. So getting the right quality of sleep is also very important. So if you sleep with a full stomach and all the bacteria is going crazy at night in your stomach, you're probably not getting the most restful sleep, right? So everything in balance, and everything should be you should sleep on an empty stomach, sleep after some, yoga meditation during the day, and make sure that you've done a little bit of exercise and a healthy diet, not eating right before you sleep. So those are just some tips that I think will help to achieve the optimal sleep balance.
Yeah, those are really good tips. I'm sure, our listeners have really benefited from today. Thank you so much for
My
being with
pleasure.
us and teaching us about, heart health. This is one of the main topics, and I've been wanting to do it for a long time. So thank you so much once again.
Thanks, Manjuri. This was fun. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching this live. Again, if you have questions, you can post it here. If you like this video, please share it with your friends who need some support with their heart, or you want them to keep their heart healthy as well. So either tag them, you can share them, you can comment on it, ask them questions. Thank you, Erin, for watching. Thank you everyone for watching. Once again, thanks, Dr. Vineeta. It was truly wonderful having you here.
Nice to have you. Bye.